Our next guest is the president of the civil rights group NAACP, the organization behind a march that starts today in Ferguson, Missouri, and continues for 215 kilometers to end at the governor's mansion in Jefferson City. We've reached Cornell William Brooks by phone at the rallying point of the demonstration. And so, sir, people are beginning to gather for the march. The starting point is at that Canfield Green Apartments, the spot where Michael Brown was killed. What's the atmosphere like there this morning?
The atmosphere is one of electricity and excitement, a sense of possibility. The fact that you have a generation of young practitioners of democracy who are joining hands and linking arms with older civil rights activists, marching from the home of Michael Brown to the home of the governor, 120 miles over the course of 7 days and into the conscience of the country and literally the world. We believe that this march taps into the deep civil rights history and moral legacy of the Selma to Montgomery March led by Dr. King almost 50 years ago, which began, like this march, after the tragic death of a young man at the hands of a police officer. So there's one great anticipation, because we believe that this march is another step forward in terms of bringing about fundamental systemic reform of policing in the United States.
And how many demonstrators are you expecting to join you for this march?
Well, we're expecting a core of 100 to do the entire march of 120 miles. 50 years ago, the Selma to Montgomery March had no more than 50 people who did the entire march, but 65,000 at the end. So we will begin with, say, hundreds, and we will end with thousands. But more importantly, we believe that this march culminates and climaxes with fundamental reforms, legislative reforms, administrative practice reforms of policing in this country, very specific reforms.
And the end of the march is, as you mentioned, at the mansion of the governor of Missouri, Jay Nixon. Have you heard from him about this march?
We have not heard from the governor about this march. We are aware that he is aware of the march. We look forward to meeting with him. We look forward to sitting down with him and discussing the specific reforms that we're seeking in terms of an end to racial profiling, an end to the militarization of police, and the building up of trust between police departments and the communities in which they serve. So we're looking forward to that conversation, and we expect to work with him and members of the business community, the faith community, students, anyone else, whoever else is willing to take up this challenge, as we've seen over the course of the last 100-plus days.
It's interesting to listen to how hopeful you are, that you sound as though you firmly believe that this is a tipping point, that things are really going to change in terms of the relationship that many have with the police. Why is it that you believe that so strongly?
Well, we believe that not because of the ease of the circumstances, but rather the capacity of the people to bring about the change. So if we think about the fact that the NAACP began 105 years ago with seeking to end a form of racialized violence called lynching. We brought that to an end. We believe that that same capacity exists within these young practitioners of democracy who took a local incident of police brutality and transformed it into a global call for civil rights reform. We believe if these young people can do this on the streets of Ferguson, Missouri, if they can protest for 100 days non-violently, we believe a non-violent protest crossing the state of Missouri and into the conscience of the country can bring about that kind of change. At the end of the day, it's not a matter of believing in the ease with which injustice can be defeated, but rather you have to believe in the capacity to bring about justice. There are people of goodwill, there are people of conscience who understand that you can't have policing that will allow a 12-year-old in Cleveland to be killed with a toy gun in his hand. We believe that having Eric Garner die in a chokehold in New York is simply unsustainable. We believe people being profiled as a consequence of their race, ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation is quite simply wrong. And so the point being is our optimism is grounded not in the ease of the injustice or the smallness of the injustice, but rather the size of our capacity to change. That's why we're confident.
You know, we've seen so many peaceful protests, but there's been some violence. There's been destruction of property.
Yes.
Do you worry that detracts from the peaceful message that you're trying to make here?
Well, Dr. King said that violence is the language of the unheard. The problem with violence is that it is heard as violence. And we firmly believe that nonviolent protest is persuasive. It's persuasive because it's powerful. It's persuasive because it presumes that those you're seeking to reach, those you're seeking to engage in the conversation for reform can in fact be reached. So looting, arson, violence in no way builds a just society. In fact, it's a matter of dismantling a society that is yet unjust, but not in ways that are good. So, yes, we in no way minimize the problem of violence. It's just that we're seeking in a very disciplined, focused way to lift up a nonviolent example. And because here's the reality. In American history, we have example after example after example of nonviolent protests bringing about constructive reform. So if we ended lynching 100 years, if we ended lynching in the last century, we can end racial profiling in this century.